Go.
Welcome to our boldly going nowhere weekly Dharma talk. Today, again, being given on the patio of my home in Ojochal on the southwest coast of Costa Rica. Today, Jeff will be giving our talk. We will open with a guided meditation from our good friend Lisa Virtue. And so I'm going to turn this over to her now. Okay, Lisa? All right. I'm still out of breath.
Thank you, Ruthie.
Mm-hmm. Ready.
Put your mask on.
Mm-hmm.
Hi, everyone. Again, I'm Lisa Virtue, and I am a yoga teacher, an energy healer, and a channel. And I'm actually starting some online yoga classes now. You can find those lisavirtue.com. Today we're going to do a mindfulness with movement. We've done this one before, but everyone seemed to enjoy it. So we're just going to begin centering ourselves. Close your eyes or just have a soft gaze downwards and bring your focus inward. So it's like you're shutting the sense doors for a moment, closing your ears, your eyes, and you're just turning all your attention inward, feeling your inner presence. And start just noticing what your breath is doing. Refraining from judging it or trying to manipulate it. And just the act of paying attention to it, you might notice it naturally starts to change. And now take an inner scan of your body. Notice the places where you feel tension, where you feel softness. Just observing the state of being. Now notice where your mind is at. Is it busy? Is it quiet? Is it beginning to slow down? Is there something that keeps tugging your attention? And then moving now to your emotions. How are you feeling this morning? This might have a lot of nuances to it. There could be something lurking in the background. You simply witness. All right, you can release that, and now we're just going to take a couple of deep inhales and long exhales. So breathe in and out. And if you make your exhale longer than your inhale, that cues the body to start relaxing. So again, breathe in and a long exhale. Now you can either open your eyes fully or keep them closed if you wish. But we're going to start bringing movement into our peacefulness. The idea here is that we are observing our bodies, observing the inner world, doing our best to keep our mind from wandering away. So the motion gives us something to focus on, but just keep it light. So we're trying to just be mindfully present. We'll begin with our neck exercises. So you'll lower your chin and raise your eyes towards the ceiling. Come back through center, just breathing naturally. Raise your chin up and your eyes down to the floor. Back to center. Keeping your eyes straight ahead, turn your head to the left, your chin to the left, and then you can bring your eyes all the way around. Back to center. And again, you're keeping your chin level. So turn your chin towards the right, keep your eyes straight, and then at the last moment, turn your eyes to look over your shoulder. And back to center. Now we're going to do these again, but using one part of the breath each. So exhale, chin down, eyes up. Inhale back to center. Exhale, chin up, eyes down. Inhale back to center. Exhale, chin to the left, eyes forward. Exhale, eyes around to the back. Inhale back to center. Exhale, chin to the right, eyes forward. Inhale, eyes around to the back. Exhale, forward. Good. All the way back to center. Now we're just going to drop our right ear to our right shoulder. Feeling the stretch in the left side of your neck, you can massage that if it's tight. Bringing your awareness into the sensation. Back up straight and over to the left. Noticing if there's a difference between the sides, which is very natural. And in this practice, I definitely recommend refraining from judgment. Back to center. If you do notice that you're struggling in some place or another, instead of criticizing yourself for it, just observe it, or even offer love, a loving kindness to that spot, and it might just let go on its own. Right, now we're going to shrug our shoulders up to our ears, and then bring them down and stretch them towards the earth. Bring them up again, and down to the earth. To normal. Now we're going to do shoulder rolls forward. So as we're getting into these exercises you're very familiar with, it can be easy to let your mind go about its tasks. Stop and reverse. So bring it back. Really feel, and you can go super slow and feel the sensations of what is going on in your shoulders. There might be a lot more there than you cared to pay attention to. And we can stop. So taking a moment, close your eyes and just feel into how that feels now. Notice physically, mentally, emotionally, where you're at now. Now we're going to do a stretch for the side. So I want you to just take your left thumb pointed towards your face, so your palm to the side, and take that arm straight up into the air. And now keeping your spine up tall, bend to your right. So you're going to be stretching the left side of your body. You can put your hand on the floor if that helps support you. You're looking for a stretch in the left side of your body. So get that left hip to stay down on the cushion. Just feel, breathe into that left side, expanding it with your breath. And back up. So already you might notice a difference between the two sides. Now with your right arm, thumb towards your face, straight up, and reach over to the left. Keep the right hip down and breathe into the right side of your body. Feeling it expand with the inhale. One more breath. And come up. Now we're going to bring our feet to have our soles together. Or if you're in a chair, you can just stretch them out if you wish. You're going to breathe your spine up tall and then just lean forward. Feeling the stretch wherever you're feeling it. Breathe right into where you're feeling the stretch. Don't forget to keep your mind focused just in the sensations. One more breath. And come up. Cross your legs or whatever's comfortable for you. And the last thing we're going to do is a twist. So if you put your hands on your hips, that will remind you that that's what we're starting with. So we're going to turn to our right, starting with just turning your hips to the right, and then moving up. Then you move your ribs to the right, then your upper chest, then your shoulders, and the last thing is your head. It might not be very far, and that's fine. Again, you're paying attention to what you're feeling, and you want to honor that. So there's no, getting further in the twist doesn't make you more spiritual. Focusing and responding to your body, that's what we're looking for. All right, come back to center. Starting at the hips again, turn to your left and up to the midsection, then your shoulders, and lastly your head. And back to center. Now close your eyes or have a soft downward gaze. Take a deep inhale and sigh out the exhale. One more. And now take another assessment, scanning the physical, the mental, and the emotional. Your body's feeling a little looser. You might feel heavier in your seat, which is a state of being grounded, which helps you to be more clear and focused and present. So there we go. We're all set to concentrate. Namaste.
Thank you, Lisa. All right.
It's in the top right.
Welcome, everyone. We have been working with the volume of our videos, and so I think that we have it solved, temporarily at least. And we are going to do a revision of the talk we gave last week. And we have been, I'm Jeff Olson, happy to be here with you today. And Ruthie is next to me. And we have Mark, Lisa, and Suzanne here, social distancing in Ojochal, as we do our Dharma group. Welcome to those of you that are at home. Right effort, part of the Eightfold Path, number 6 on the Eightfold Path, taught by the Buddha after his enlightenment 2,500 years ago. And it is part of the fourth noble truth. I'm going to review those because I think that's good each time. 1, life involves suffering. Life has suffering. It's inevitable. It's universal. It's problematic. Number 2, that the cause of our suffering is clinging, grasping, craving things in an attempt to relieve our suffering. However, these causes are continue with the suffering because clinging, grasping, and craving will not lead to the result of relief from suffering, happiness. Number 3, there's a way out of this malaise. I rarely use that word. That's a good one. There's a way out, and that is to figure out how to counteract, change our mind, change our actions, change our perspective, really change our mind. And in changing our mind away from clinging, grasping, craving, we can find true happiness. That means some letting go of things. It also probably means holding on to some things that are not, we don't crave. They bring happiness to us in our life. Very much, and one of the things I love about Buddhism is many things I like. One of the things is balance. That between the yin and the yang and the extremes on the spectrum, there is an equanimity that leads to happiness. And so it's perfect that as we do the noble, the Eightfold Path, that there's a way out of our suffering. There's a way out of the people we suffer with. There's a way out of our dilemma from external circumstances. I'm assuming if you're listening to this while the pandemic is going on, that the external circumstances have altered your life. If you do the process of not clinging, grasping, or craving to what was before, interestingly, there's happiness and a gift available when you change your mind. So there's way out, and then the fourth one is that the Buddha gave 8 ideas, 8 areas, and some real subtext in those areas about how to live, how to maintain that kind of happiness in your life, that calm, that tranquility, that balance. So I'm not going to go through all 8 of them. We're on number 6, which is right effort. 6, 7, and 8 in the Eightfold Path are all part of a mental discipline section. And in changing your mind, discipline is a part of it. And so we're going to go through a couple of the first precepts today, and next week Ruthie is going to do the third and fourth precepts under this idea of right effort. So the idea of right effort is to apply energy in the service of becoming whole and wholesome, becoming better, becoming happier, becoming less preoccupied, becoming more focused. These are all parts of this Eightfold Path that all intersect with each other. The first of the two that I'm going to talk about today, as it comes to right effort, is there's energy that's negative that comes from some other, from the current time. To prevent arising of things that have yet to arise. So there are circumstances and current things that come, and we are surprised at our responses to them. Because sometimes our first response in the present is negative. If that's negative, it's not wholesome, it's not whole, it doesn't lead us to where we want to go. It leads us to clinging, grasping, craving. There are three of these areas that you can prevent in the current time when something new comes to you. And that is, these are the three areas that this happens: greed, anger, ignorance. And so I'm going to say this, and I said it last week, but I'm going to say it better this week. I forgot it last week. What you're trying to develop here in the current moment is to be tenacious in changing the channel with the remote that you have now been given with new tools to change the channel. So when there's a non-wholesome channel that comes to you in a current circumstance, sometimes you're surprised by that, sometimes you're not surprised at it, because we know ourselves probably best and we could predict what we will do next. And so to prevent that from arising is to do very much of self-discipline to observe what's happening in our mind. The current stimulus, negative response, a response of greed, anger, ignorance are the big categories. And by disciplining our mind, we can overcome these. They can dissipate. They can, over time, even quite momentarily. One of the great things of meditation is it changes our perspective. Earlier on in the video, Lisa was leading us into a different set of energy through the exercises we did. I felt it. And so we have the possibility of changing the channel, changing our mind. And I want to add one thing today. We have the possibility of cleansing our mind. No matter what the stimulus is, no matter what our response is, no matter how we've been trained, no matter how spontaneous our response is, we have the ability to change that, to cleanse it, to make it wholesome. And this is energy in the service of the wholesome. Anything you want to add to that, Ruthie?
Yeah, I think that this is we have four things that we're going to cover. The first two are the practical practices that you can take to change your mind and your circumstances by the direction of energy. And the first two are negative, and the second two are positive, and I'll go over those the following week. But one of the things you touched on was that Buddhism is really good because it doesn't just say you can change your mind, it shows you how to do it. And you're going to go through things that are very practical in how you actually do it. Now, we know we can train our bodies. I mean, we start off with potty training. Our mothers make us train our bodies. But then we get into sports and we learn how to do all that. We learn how to do many, many things with our bodies. We can change our mind and train our mind, is what I meant to say, equally. as adroitly as we can train our bodies. But nobody really gets into that much. So that's all I like to say. What this is about is energy, how to direct your energy into more wholesome, skillful, and satisfying ways, which is called the path of awakening. You can do it.
Yes, this is entirely possible.
All doable.
Enlightenment is entirely possible. The road to enlightenment, for sure. The goal is to finish the race, and but my goal is always just to stay in the race.
That's me too.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure where the finish will be. I don't need to know that, but I do need to stay on the road toward this.
It's kind of like those guys that jump over the hurdles. You run along and you get over one, and you got to run.
Right,
And there's another
right.
one.
Plenty of hurdles of suffering in our life.
Yeah, that's right.
So the first of this right effort is to prevent things that are new from arising that are unwholesome and cause suffering, such as greed, anger, and ignorance. The second one is that there are habits, patterns by which negative things, where we respond to negative things, react often to negative things, negative people, things that are not comfortable for us, things that don't fit right, and therefore our responses have been greed, anger, and ignorance. However, these unwholesome qualities that have arisen before, again, you have the possibility of changing the channel. This is a channel you've been watching a while. You've been in this channel for a long time, and this is about observing that channel in a new and a different way, with the possibility of thinking as you observe that I do not have to be stuck here. In counseling, there couples counseling, which is one of the things that I've done. There are people who are stuck in their same patterns at the beginning of the counseling all the way to the end. Not a successful counseling circumstance.
Don't you think the hardest thing in making the change is the deeply ingrained habits within?
The deeply ingrained habits are, for sure, we are comfortable even if we know they're unhealthy.
So that's why if you do this first step and you know, it may not be something new, it could be something old, but you know it's going to arise if you give it the right stimulus.
Right.
You just don't go there.
Correct. So that's one of the things is you have the possibility of not watching the channel or changing the channel, which we're going to get into 5 specific ways that you can extinguish or overcome or abandon old habits, old ways of reacting to things that are unwholesome. And it sometimes means that that we have to give up our negative pleasure. Sounds very strange that we wouldn't want to give up our negative pleasure, but unfortunately, that's where we are in our suffering sometimes. That's where we are in our circumstances. So this developing a tenacious ability, more regularized over time ability to prevent things that arise that have yet never happened before. And then to extinguish and overcome and abandon the patterns by which unwholesome things happen in us and in our world, which cause suffering. So there are 5 strategies to this, and this is really the meat of what we're talking about today. So there are 5 strategies, and the beautiful thing that Ruthie talked about in Buddhism is it's an entirely practical way of living. It has so little to do with somehow connecting with a spirituality outside of yourself, but it has so much to do with what will I do within myself to be different, to be open to change, to observe my changes, to observe where I've been, where I am currently, and where I'd like to be. So here's 5 strategies to stop the distractions of unwholesome thoughts. First, consider replacing it by using the opposite as an antidote. Think about someone who you don't like. They've made you angry. You've been disappointed by them. You might even actually feel some hatred toward them. Imagine if instead of focusing on that energy, that you use the opposite of that and applied it to that person, that situation. So if, let me give you an example. If it's someone that you can't stand, you apply loving kindness. Not just once, many times. As the hatred comes, as the dislike comes, you counteract it with the antidote, which is the opposite. So this is really a practical way of changing the thing. It's like turning the coin. I'd like to continue to play tails on this coin. I'll flip it up. It always lands on tails with you. Now I'm thinking about the person that you might be thinking about. It always lands on tails with you. So observe the tails, turn the coin with your effort, right effort. By turning the coin, and I'm going to apply positivity. Now, this does not always mean that you become best of friends. In counseling, they call this setting good boundaries. If there's someone who regularly comes into your life and is a part of your life, sometimes these are family members, it's hard to get rid of them. Once you're in a family, you're in it, whether you want to participate or not. But to apply to those people and to do the antidote will change you. But it does not mean that it changes them necessarily. The same kind of energy can come at you over and over and over again. They'll be predictably the same unless they practice these things. And so the energy of changing yourself by applying the exact opposite in the head of the coin.
Well, the quick way to say it is for this one would be to every time there's an arising of ill will, you do your metta, which is to extend goodwill.
Explain what a metta is for those who.
Oh, metta is loving kindness. We'll get into a lot of that next week, but there's loving kindness, which is loving kindness and compassion. So it doesn't mean that you're going to change the person, which is what he just said. You're just going to change your response to that particular. We're using this one particular example, but if you trade ill will in and you take on goodwill, and let that become your focus and not the ill will that you felt to start with.
Correct. You will change. This has happened as I have changed my perspective on people. It hasn't changed them much at all.
No, it didn't change it.
But it's changed me. And that's what matters. These 5 are a way of becoming adults in our thinking. Adults think about how they're thinking. Isn't that interesting that we have to think about how we're thinking? And then we have the possibility when we're given the tools about changing that channel. So the first tool is about applying the opposite as an antidote. The second one is taking responsibility for our mind and for what we do with it. One of the ways of doing this is when our mind gets set on something that we wonder or we know is unwholesome, we apply wisdom from a source that we respect. What would you fill in the blank say? Doesn't have to be one of the standard people. What it doesn't have to be what would Buddha say, or what would Jesus say, or what would Martin Luther King Jr. say. Whoever is your mentor, the person that you respect, what they say, what would they say to me about this? And then you apply that to your mindset. And you take responsibility not only for where your mind has been, but where you would like it to go because you know what would be the better way. So it's really taking a different road, a higher road, and the responsibility to get to the higher road. No matter whether this is a pattern that has come from before that arises, or whether it's a current circumstance that's new to us and arises, that we take responsibility for our own mind state and its change. It's a road less traveled to take responsibility for our own mind state, to think about how we think, apply some wisdom from a source that we choose. The beauty of Buddhism is there's not just one source of wisdom. You want to say the Buddhist buffet thing again? Will you do that? This is one of my favorite Ruthie sayings.
Well, this is from Thich Nhat Hanh, who has made the statement a number of times that Buddhism is a really clever way to enjoy life. And he has a saying when he gives talks sometimes, he will do this to the audience for his talk and say, "This is Buddhism. Here is happiness. Please help yourself." So he's laying it out that, it's there for you. You only need to apply yourself, make right effort in essence, to participate.
Good. Thank you.
Yeah.
I always thought that was the Buddhist buffet. It's for those of you from Norwegian or Scandinavian countries, a spiritual smorgasbord.
Here's happiness.
Here's happiness. Help yourself at the buffet.
Yep.
How lovely is that invitation?
Yep.
No preset of what you need to start with. No, you need to start with the salad. No, you want to start with the dessert. Start with the dessert.
Lots to choose from.
Lots to choose from. Enjoy.
Mm-hmm.
It's lovely. The third strategy, the first one was using the antidote. The second is taking responsibility for our mind state and for its change. Third, divert our attention. I love this one. This is maybe my new favorite of the list of 5. Divert my attention. In counseling, I have been saying this regularly to people. Why don't you pay attention to this for 15 minutes? And when the 15 minutes is done, stop. Go do something completely different. So if you're thinking about your thinking and about what you're doing, and you're doing that intently for 15 minutes, whether it's mentally or whether it's in writing, whether it's in speaking, change your mind, go do some gardening. And that kind of deliberate diversion of our attention is a way of us adding mental discipline to our practice.
That's equanimity too. If you've been studying really hard, get up and take a walk.
Yes.
If you've been exercising too hard, go hang up in the hammock for a while.
Yeah, absolutely. So many ways, and we know the things that if you do intense work, it's nice to do something casual next.
Yeah.
something that's not so intense. So you don't go, you don't, I still remember my father coming home from work after a difficult day at the corporation, and he needed 30 minutes of people not talking to him. And then he could join the family. He needed to change his mind. He needed to divert his attention from that. Otherwise, the dinner table would feel like a corporate dinner table.
It was a transition period.
It is. And so to give yourself those transitions is good. One of the ways that this was done by Walter Mitchell, who did research, was a marshmallow experiment. So they put volunteer children in a room and put a marshmallow in front of them. They had observing mirrors that the children couldn't see that they were observing them, and they told the children that if they don't eat the marshmallow in 10 minutes, they will get a second marshmallow. They leave the room. They observe what happens, and of course, some kids put their focus on the marshmallow and they can't resist, and so they don't get the second marshmallow in 10 minutes. But there were kids, interestingly, who figured out how to divert their attention from the marshmallow, and those were the kids that got the second marshmallow.
Willpower didn't do it.
Willpower didn't. No, focus on the pleasure did not do it. That led them to it. But to divert their attention, they said that kids would sing children's songs. Some kids would never look at the marshmallow because they were waiting for the second one. These were kids that actually had developed their own set of mental disciplines to get the greater reward. And so, this is a really, really good tool. The fourth one is the opposite, and that is to look directly at the source of the unpleasantness.
This is more mature.
This is the most mature, and this is why sometimes we don't get to this one. To look directly at the source and say, what is going on here? What is going on with me? Is it about this?
Applied honesty, and that's tough.
It is difficult. So if you feel crabby towards a person, which I'm assuming we all do, and as we observe that, and we ask the question is, what is going on with me? What is really going on with me? Is it that I didn't sleep well last night? Is it that I'm disappointed because they haven't somehow met my expectations? They will probably not have a clue of their annoyance. But when you pay attention to it, you can be clue, and you can not only know what is on the surface, but what is underneath the surface. You can peel the onion. It is the most mature way of changing your mind, changing your perspective, of observing what your mindset is like in these kind of things. The fifth one is really amusing, and that is the Buddha said to just suppress the energy with clenched teeth.
Grit your teeth.
Grit your teeth, bear it.
Willpower when all else fails.
And I think there's a reason why it's the fifth one, because evidently
last resort.
it is and it is a last resort. But you want to know,
and it usually doesn't work.
It can.
It can, but no.
It can. It's not the most solid of the five. It takes discipline to clench your teeth.
Anybody who's ever tried to give up smoking or other things just by willpower finds out that the other four work better.
Yeah, right. But you want to know, I know from working with people in treatment, one of the treatment phrases is do the next right thing.
Yeah.
You know what it is, make it happen. This fits very well in a capitalistic society, by the way, this last one. Suppress with clenched teeth. The problem with suppression and repression and all those things in therapy is it's a bit of playing a game with your innards.
Right.
You're dealing with it in an outward way, and what's happening underneath it. What I always say this: it wasn't what was above the water that sunk the Titanic.
Yeah.
It was the enormous glacier underneath the water that sunk the Titanic, and so it is in our life. It's not the things that we can deal with and clench our teeth with always that sink us. It's the not observing the other things, and it sinks us. And so I think as a last ditch effort, this is I put a big smile on my in my notes about suppress with clenched teeth. If there are any behaviorists watching, you'll like this one. Change your behavior, it will change your thinking. It will change your feelings.
Change your thinking. You change your behavior.
Yes, all kinds of different ways. We've done this
Which
little.
is part of the good part of this. You're not stuck to, oh, if you just do this, this, and
No.
everything's going to be fine. You got this huge smorgasbord.
Yeah.
And you can approach it lightheartedly.
In therapy, people often think that in feeling, thinking, behaving, that it has to go feeling, thinking, behaving in that order. That you pay attention to your feelings, you plan your and then you apply your thoughts to refine it, and then you choose the best of behaviors. What this is saying is do it in any order you want.
Whatever works.
Whatever works for you. If to change your mindset, it means that you have to be disciplined. There are people that stop smoking in a moment. They decide to stop smoking. Like, how did that work?
I don't know. It took me 10 years.
It took you 10 years. But took your husband, he said, I'm quitting, I'm done. Mm-hmm. So that shows you the variety that this is. So 5 strategies are really, really helpful and practical. And then I think we should turn this over to anybody who wants to add something to this. And the 5 strategies are using the opposite as an antidote, taking responsibility for our own mind state and change, divert our attention away from the negative energy, look directly at it and what's underneath it, and then, if we have to, suppress it with our willpower and our determination. This is a way to be adult and to think about our thinking and keep things from arising that will lead us to suffering.
But Jeff, isn't there a second element here?
You go ahead because that's my notes.
Okay. Well, you're doing the first 2, which yes. Is the first one is to prevent the arising of that which is not already arisen.
Yes.
Which, for example, let's say you're addicted. It means that you don't, if you're an alcoholic, you don't go to bars. I mean, it's prevent what you know could be bad for you, unwholesome. Just prevent it from arising. But the second one is
things that have previously arisen.
Things that have already arisen, and that's what these are.
Yes.
So you go back to the first one, which is if you know something's going to be bad for you, don't do it. If it happens anyway, or if you can't, then these are applied antidotes to it.
Correct.
Okay, so that's all I want to say. I want to run back to the first one because it's really important. If you know that something is not going to be good for you, like eating the marshmallow, not to do it. Here you go. That's you.
So comments. We're gonna ask anybody else who's here to speak loudly, and then I'll repeat what you say.
So one of the things that you both pointed out, which I fully embrace, is these opportunities to use these tools to create change in your life. But Ruthie just touched on something that's absolutely beautiful, and that is that if you're going to quit drinking, then you just don't go to the bars.
That's right.
Well, what happens if you work in a bar?
That's right.
And this is what many of us find in our lives, that so many of us are caught up in the turmoil of the problems that we're facing, and we don't have the luxury of being able to escape to a desert island and refine ourselves. And so these tools become incredibly important because they are used moment by moment by moment to center us in that place, recognizing that the outside world is beyond reproach. We're unable to change the outside world, as you pointed out very early, Jeff. It's the ability to change our perspective of it. You use the example of a person, but that person can be a community, or it can be a country or a world. And it really encourages us to consider these precepts and how they relate to us and how we're relating to the world around us.
Yes.
But we often really want to change the situation. When we can't change the situation, all we can change is ourselves, our response to it. And so if we get over that habit of always directing all our energy towards changing the situation into changing how we feel about it and how we think about it, that can make a big difference.
It isn't always that we can change what I heard you say, Mark, asking the question about sometimes we can't change all the circumstances.
Yeah.
So that it's all lined up in a beautiful Buddhist slippy slide, down the beautiful Buddhist hill. No, we can't do that. So our daily practice of rethinking, cleansing our mind, changing our mind, observing our mind, respecting where we've been, but not needing to stay there. Then at that point, we can indeed change our world, even if we don't change our outer world, is what I'm hearing you say.
Exactly.
Good. Anybody else? Thank you. Well, I think I'm looking forward to the 2 positive ones next week from you.
Yeah, because once you've gotten rid of the negative, then you have to go for the positive. There you go. So, how are we doing on time?
We're good. I think we're ready to apply loving kindness to wherever we've been.
Do we need a full loving kindness or just a little short one? All right. Everybody, take a deep. Oh, thank you. Do that again. I interrupted. Get comfortable. Feel centered. Take the few deep breaths. You might want to roll your shoulders. At least stretch your back a little bit. And now we're going to do a loving kindness meditation. And when we do the next set for right effort, which is dealing with positive, loving kindness becomes very important. So loving kindness doesn't say loving and it doesn't say kindness. It puts the two together because love alone can sometimes be corrupted and very unhealthy. Kindness generally adds to that and makes it a healthy thing. So we're going to pick 5 people. This is a guided meditation. You can do it every day. You can add whatever words you want. You can do it for whomever you want. You can do it for your pets, for your relatives, for your neighbors, for people in the hospital, whatever. It is simply unconditional friendliness, which is the antidote to ill will. When we start, we're going to start where we should always start, which is with ourselves. And we will go from ourselves to someone we love. This is easy. We wish good things for the people we already love very much. Then we move out one level and we go to people that we really don't know very well. We may not even know their names. But there's someone who waits on us or someone that we see on the road when we take a ride in the morning, whatever. And they're neutral. So that takes you out one more level for unconditional friendliness. Then you move to someone with whom you're in conflict, someone who doesn't like you or whom you don't like, someone who just has very different opinions from yourself that you find unhealthy, and so you can't subscribe, as it were, to their viewpoints, which is a form of conflict. You disagree with them. So then from there, you move to everyone in the whole world. So we're going to do it with 4 statements. One is to be well. This is to be healthy. We want people to be healthy. If we love them at all, or for friendly, we don't want them to be sick. So we're going to start with that. The next one is that they be safe, that no harm come to them. We don't want them to be hurt. The third level we're going to talk about, I'm having a little trouble with this, is to be balanced. And that's expressed as being at ease, the opposite of dis-ease or uneasy is to be at ease. That's relaxed and at peace. And the fourth one is to be happy. As I say, you can change these any way you want, but this is what we're going to do. So close your eyes. Take 2 or 3 deep breaths. Feel your body. Bring an image of yourself as if you were looking into a mirror and say to yourself after me, may I be well. May no harm come to me. May I live with ease, calm and peaceful. May I be happy. Blow yourself a kiss. Give yourself a little wave. And now bring to mind somebody that you love. And to that person, say their name, smile at them, and say, may you be well. May no harm come to you. May you live with ease, calm and peaceful. May you be happy. And again, smile, wave. And now bring to mind your neutral person. If you don't know his or her name, address them as friend. Smile, wave. May you be well. May no harm come to you. May you live with ease, calm and peaceful. May you be happy. And now we place our hands over our hearts, symbolically for all of us. This is a gesture of love and embracing. We're going to love and embrace all sentient beings everywhere. So we say this a little differently. Follow along. It goes this way. May all beings everywhere on this plane and all other planes be well. May all beings everywhere be safe. May all beings everywhere be free from suffering. May all beings everywhere be happy. And now, you just rest a minute in loving awareness of how it feels to love everyone without reservation, unconditionally. and try and take that feeling away with you as you go about your everyday life. So release your hands when you're ready. And then we close with a little saying from the Unitarian Church, actually. And it goes this way. Go in peace, go making peace. Living gently, loving mightily, and bowing to mysteries. Thank you all. We'll see you next week.